Hey, it's Saturday again. This is the Saturday night mouse party. And it looks like it may continue to be on Saturdays for at least a little while longer. But there's a link out in the poll for this week's poll out in the chat. So if you haven't voted in this week's poll, you can jump over and do that. But so Guns Barbecue, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Mouseman. How are you?
I'm doing all right. DJ Play Nice, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
And Gun Websites, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, but I'm wondering what the issue is with Wednesday. Is this some kind of an issue that you refuse to do things on Wednesday, or being bullied on Wednesday?
No, I have to work on Wednesdays, so that's still waiting to find out if that's going to be a permanent thing or if it's still temporary, but kind of waiting for the owners to make up their minds on what they want to do. So for the time being, I'm working on Wednesdays.
Boss fired everybody. That way he wouldn't have to do Wednesday night shows. He's like, I can just do them all on Saturday. Watch this. You're all fired.
That was kind of the problem. I took a vacation and they fired half the night crew. So let's see who was out there. X Adam 1 was out there. Guns Barbecue. DJ Play Nice. Ron Wade. Woods. G23. Hillbilly up. I hope he's feeling better. he was which one was he drinking, DJ?
It was left to the lime one that I think really pushed it over the edge.
Was it White Claws or?
Yes, sir, it was White Claw.
Okay.
Grapefruit. Yeah, pink grapefruit went down first, and I think it was the red raspberry was next, but that lime just didn't make it.
As part of a fundraiser, Hillbilly was drinking White Claws and chundered the White Claws on his chat. So if you're interested in that, maybe go back later and watch the replay. And I think I got everybody that had said something so far. Let's go to, let me call up this week's poll. Your screen. Let me find there we go. So this week's poll was, do you enjoy what you do for a living? And it was absolutely. Every day is drudgery. It pays the bills. I'm in between jobs. Or, hi, my name is Gary and I'm retired. And it pays the bills. Took it with 36%, which is kind of what I expected.
Yep.
And absolutely is 32%, probably a little more than I was expecting. 15% said every day is drudgery. 9% said, hi, my name is Gary, I'm retired. And 8% said, I'm between jobs. So let's go down to the comments. And Vanessa Kitty said, semi-retired. MC said, great timing on the question. Love my chosen field. Disgruntled with my current employer. Underappreciated is an understatement. Tim Allen said, some days I'm happy. Other days I want to get off this employment ride. Gizzard Gary said, okay, who else named Gary is retired here? And thanks for making a custom option. And Krabby Turtle dropped a link to, I got to remember the words. It's a video. It's a music video. Hey, hey, hey. I'm on vacation every day. because I love my occupation. I think that's the words to that song. Galveris 32 Special said, I enjoy what I do. That doesn't mean there are not some days where it can be a drag. DJ Play Nice said, love what you do what you love. Rock. And Woods said, teaching is super hard, but you are part of something bigger than yourself. Guns Barbecue said, I choose option E. Yeah, I don't know. I would say I enjoy what I do, but there are days where, you know, I think a lot of people have that same feeling where you don't enjoy it as much as other days.
I can honestly say I've never had a job that I was unhappy with.
I haven't. I don't think I've ever had a job that I've hated. Maybe ones that I didn't really enjoy, but you know, I try and find the enjoyment where I can.
Yep.
Just because, you know, if you start hating what you're doing, then you start hating life, and it's a downward spiral. Try not to get into that. Even if I'm not happy, you know, there's usually something I can find about what I'm doing. I don't know if I could say enjoy, but you know, it makes it bearable.
Well, for most people, at least those that work the 8-hour day, when you add in commute, that's more than half your waking time is spent engaged in work. And if you can enjoy what you're doing on the days that you work and you aren't finding yourself enjoying payday at the end of all of it, wow, it may be time to consider another career. And sometimes the dollars are just not an offset for the tasks that you have to perform.
Bubba Triclops Ballistics is out there. Good evening. Uh-oh. There we go. My internet just slowed down, so I may disappear once or twice during the chat. If that happens, I promise I will be back.
Should be able to hold down the fort. I've been lucky, I guess, take the lead on this one, that I've had several careers that I enjoyed every damn day I worked, almost regardless of how stressful it would become. The last career that I left was 15 years working at a group home with 3 guys that had different, you know, disabilities and limitations kind of thing. But even on the days when I had to, you know, from scrubbing floors to taking the guys to ball games and whatnot, I did enjoy each day that I spent there. Even those domestic duties, kind of my distaste for them slid to the side. Another job that I really enjoyed was working in production of media, CDs, cassettes, the like. And one of the reasons I really did like that job was I was the head of the department, so I kind of got to do what I wanted during the production day. But I found myself working shoulder to shoulder with those that were doing assembly and duplication. And it was one of those jobs where, as an unmarried and childless guy, they took a little bit of advantage of the number of hours I was willing to work, or that they had me work, kind of thing, as a salaried person. But the dollars did offset some of those. I'm working, you know, 7 days. Well, I'm working 20 plus days in a row, sort of thing. And then the job that I enjoyed probably the most, and I miss amongst all, was working in radio. It's pretty easy to sit and talk, kind of, you know, like what we're doing tonight. And when you've got the bonus of being able to listen to music and being a part of the industry, yeah, it was smiles. So for the majority, easily, of my working life, I've enjoyed what I've done.
Mystic Guns and Ozzy Osbourne. Good evening. Yeah, I've just trying to think. I don't think I've had a job where I absolutely loved it. That it's the thing I wanted to do forever. Um, yeah, I mean, when I worked for the Washington State University, when they redid all their communications lines, all their CAT lines and stuff like that, I worked for the university where I would take the contractors through the dorms and stuff, and that was fun. I got to learn a lot, learned what they were doing, how they did it. Basically walked around the campus all day with the guys, and especially with the guy that plotted out when they had to core through the concrete walls and stuff. Hanging out with him was the most fun, because it was, we just went around and then he'd mark on the walls and stuff. And so sometimes he'd bring his dog, and then we'd just go into whatever building we wanted to go into because I had keys. And he's the reason that I became infatuated with the 454 Casull, because he had a single action Casull.
Yes.
But I didn't get to shoot it. Just went over to his house, and it was laying on the floor, so I got to look at it. Let's go back. Look at the comments here.
And while you're pulling those, I've actually been engaged in stringing Cat 5 cable all over Hale and Gone. So I'm glad you found something that was fun about getting it done.
Well, it might have been a little different because I wasn't actually doing the work. I did do a little bit wiring the outlets and stuff just for fun, but most of the time I just stood around, knocked on doors so I could open up dorm rooms and stuff.
We actually took, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we took fishing the wires literally. We used some high test line and lead weights when we needed to get from one room to the other, just like hook it up, toss it, and that lead would throw it right across the room.
Wood said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think that's an old famous trope. Gizzard Gary's out there talking about the retired man himself. And Wood said, I have had many jobs I've hated for sure. To be fair. Yeah, I don't know if I've never hated a job. It's just maybe it's my personality where I didn't want, there have definitely been people I've worked with that I strongly disliked, but for the most part, the jobs themselves is just doing a thing repeatedly. Normally, most of the jobs I've had were usually involved manual labor. G23 said, I got burnt out in the manufacturing industry and quit. Now I have a company offering me a nice salary to come back to manufacturing. Wood said, teaching is not for everyone. Kids are amazing. They crack me up daily. It takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, when I work... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, two favorite jobs was when I worked corrections and armed security. After that, I did a year stint at Dunham's as their, I guess you call me the resident gun guy. They pay me an extra 50 cents per hour because I had gone to gunsmithing school over anybody else that worked the gun counter. I was like, all right, that's cool, whatever. I'm just doing this while I figure out what else I'm going to do with life, which I ended up going to truck driving school and drove truck until I went blind. But if I could have worked security and corrections the rest of my life, I would have certainly done that, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, why couldn't you work corrections? That's a great job. When you're per diem and making $8.50 an hour, it wasn't paying the bills. That's right when I had gotten together with my children's mother, and she came with a 1-year-old. And when you go from a bachelor and just having to worry about yourself and the bills for you, $8.50 an hour and working your life away was no problem. But then when you all of a sudden had a family and a 1-year-old to provide for and whatnot, $8.50 an hour didn't cut it. So left that, and the security job, we were constantly gaining new accounts and losing new accounts, and it was just not steady enough I shouldn't say steady enough, but stable enough. So that's why I ended up going and driving truck. But yeah, if I could have done those two forever, that's what I would have liked to do.
Oh man, I'm not sure I could keep up with the security work after the couple of years that I did, based on, I just didn't like having to do the physical rounds. I mean, I was a big dude, 250 at least, and working those summers, little guard shack that's like maybe, 4 foot square and out without any shade kind of thing. So sitting and cooking in that thing, and I know different accounts are, different ways, but yeah, being in a little guard shack, having to do, miles and miles and miles, it was good for physical fitness, but it was no kind of fun in the dead of Midwest winters or summers. So.
Well, posts where you're just there by yourself and you're like, yep, nothing's ever going to happen here, which, I mean, that's a bad mindset to get into, because when you start getting like that, that's when something's going to happen, whether it's just something at the facility that you're at because you were too lax, or, an outside issue, somebody breaking in, something like that. Either way. But no, my favorite ones were events. We would do security on the holidays at local amusement park, fairs, things like that. Those ones I think were the best. Rarely did I ever draw a post where it was just, sitting at a warehouse and going and doing rounds. If I got roped into one of those because we had a call off and my boss was like, hey, you're the supervisor, you got to go cover it. I'm like, technically you're supervisor too, and I'm pretty sure they want you to cover this. But I wasn't complaining about overtime either. So
Vanessa Kitty's out there. Good evening. X Adam 1 said, I treat jobs like jobs. Since I don't have a career or special skill set, I don't drink that Kool-Aid about them being family or any manipulation tactics. I work
I hate that,
etc. Family first for me. I kind of feel that way. There's the other, well, I can say I did work with family. Well, I worked for my uncle one time, and that was, my aunt and uncle are great. Well, we're great people. They're both gone now, but he owned an ice company. So I delivered ice for him for a summer. And that was, like working with family. But other than that, yeah, pretty much everybody is replaceable, even if your replacement won't be as good as you. So I still, I do my job as best as I can because I want to do my job as best as I can. Not so much for the business, but because I enjoy doing the best that I can. And I can say that I probably don't do my best every day, but when that's kind of the way I approach it. That's, maybe that's
No
why
doubt.
I haven't hated any job.
Well, and with that, it's not just the self-satisfaction of the job well done. It also eventually, hopefully at least, right, commands respect and trust from employers, from an employer, and from coworkers too. There are a couple of comments out there, about doing your job and doing it well. And I can relate to portions of what X Adam One was saying out there. You just come in and do it. And, leaving a job at work, you don't take your job home kind of thing. That's really hard for a lot of people. And if you don't have that attitude, if you don't, and I'll pass it back to you, if you don't have that attitude, you will burn out faster and you won't want to go back and enjoy whatever it was you once might have. Go ahead.
I went through that at a job where it started to affect me, where I didn't sleep. I developed a tic where my eye would twitch. And luckily we had a young manager that had come in, and he sat me down and he said, "Hey, let's fix your schedule so it works out for you." And that, from then on, I kind of started separating work and home, where I don't take work home. Once I walk through the door, leaving work, I may think about work, but it's almost like thinking about something that's far away. It's over there. So I don't stress over stuff at work. My wife is not able to separate work and home. We're part of the problem now is she's working from home after the cough. But so, she was having trouble with her blood pressure and stuff like that because she cannot separate out when she, once she clocks off, she still worries about stuff that's going on at work.
And like literally can't, is taking work home. Work goes to, that's rough, man. Like what kind of strategies is your family implementing to help out with that, as that one supervisor helped you out?
Well, I would tell her, stop it. I will just, give her encouragement. Hey, you're doing a great job. And, just try and remind her, because she's salary. So sometimes she'll jump back on the computer at night. So, I'll try and gently remind her that she's working again. And then she's, I think she's taking blood pressure medication. She, saw the doctor to try and get that under control. And I think it's a little better, but I don't think it'll ever go away. A midget with carrot cake said, "My favorite job was an aircraft fueler. I worked 4 hours and watched movies for 6. Now I make a lot more money in the entertainment industry, but it sucks."
Yeah, pre-Coco, the whole home office thing was relatively rare, at least comparatively. I mean, I knew very, very few people who worked exclusively from home. Now, being able to put in office hours at home kind of thing, salesmen, some other industries, I know people would do that before they went into the office, or be able to split at home kind of thing. But I can't imagine having to have a separation. I guess it would have to be, as I've seen other people do, literally, they have an office space set up, separated. They go in, they only come out as they would for, bathroom breaks or coffee breaks or whatever, as they would at a normal workplace. And then when they close the door, that's it. They don't go back in that until they have to report for duty and log on and do whatever else the following day. So that segregation of work and home being as complicated as it's now become for some, I feel for folks like that. Plus, no variety. You get to see the same people, the same rooms. You don't get any, customers coming in or new faces, like Barbecue's example of working a county fair. I mean, that's no variety. That'd start to wear on a person as well. Like, what do you do?
Oh, I bug my wife all day long, basically, just because the way it's set up, where her computer is, behind her is where the home computer is. So I'll be sitting at there, and I'll turn around and ask her questions, and then sometimes there's like a partial wall that her desk sits up against, and I will stand where she'll catch me in her peripheral vision, just around that wall, and I'll do stuff, I'll stand while she's in meetings, maybe dance or something like that, where she'll see me, and it'll make her laugh and make her mad because she's trying to work and she's in a meeting.
Well, if you weren't there doing some of that song and dance, though, that would make some of those days that much more rough for her, I would imagine. So, and it's not often that you get to, like soft quotes, work with your spouse. If that's not part of the usual deal, it's maybe catching a lunch or, knowing some of the people in their offices or workplace sort of thing, just from the comings and goings. So I'm glad you take a sense of humor and a casual approach to that. I'm sure that helps her out quite a bit.
Well, probably the worst thing for her is she gets sexually harassed on a daily basis at work.
Mm.
Just trying to scroll back up because Ozzy had a comment earlier that I need to start using this to star. Yeah, I'm really bad about not doing that.
It's not that far up. It's the one where it says not to brag, but if you're good at what you do, it's not work. The hardest part of his day is showing up. Is that the one you're looking for?
No, I used to love my job, but after 45 years, it's just a paycheck. He's in the printing business. He's got a couple videos on his where he shows the printing presses and stuff. It's kind of interesting. And X Adams said, I used to like an office job that I had because it was very nice, scheduled, but it never paid enough to really get extras in life. I cannot handle a desk job. I cannot sit still for that long. I need to. That's kind of why I've always had manual labor jobs. I need to move around.
Indeed. I say that, then you're like, but you drove a truck for 10 hours a day. Yeah. It's also why I did flatbed, because I had to get out of the truck every day and throw around 100-pound tarps and all kinds of good stuff like that. So it broke up the monotony of just staring out the windshield.
That the job I had at WSU doing the communication stuff, once they finished, it transitioned into where I could have stayed on with the project, but it would have been a desk job. And I'm like, nah, I appreciate it. It's been fun, but no, I can't do it. And I had the bosses, two bosses I had were great guys. One of them was a Vietnam vet, and it was interesting hearing his stories. Nothing too graphic, but it's always interesting to hear somebody's perspective on what they went through. Sergeant Joe Smith is out there, and Shaggy Girl. Good evening.
Evening. So
yeah, coworkers can sometimes. Sorry, Barbecue, and I'll pass it to you. Coworkers can sometimes make or break a job. I have left jobs because being in competition. Like not literally, but being, in competition for a productive day's work with somebody that I just did not want to be around anymore. I got to go. Otherwise, bad stuff starts to happen. Barbecue.
Oh, well, I was going to ask a question, but going on the coworker thing, never had a problem with coworkers because I'm that type of guy. I go to work to do my job, make a paycheck, and get the frick out. I'm not going there to make friends and be pals and everything else like that. So as a whole, I never really had an issue because, I mean, I would joke around with people if somebody talked to me. You're polite and whatnot. But overall, it just wasn't my MO to be like, oh, let's go out and get a beer now. No. I'll talk to you here. Then I'm punching the clock and I'm going home and living my life. Have a great day.
I have in the past, my younger days, like the night cruise and stuff. We'd hang out during the day. Now, not really. Partly because I'm the boss, and then there's been too much turnover too, where I don't want to invest time in getting to know somebody because they're going to be gone. So,
Yep.
I won't be mean to people because of it, but just, we're here to do a job. If you're doing a good job, great job. If not, then we'll figure out how to help you do a better job. And it may be, a little different because I've been in charge for the last 15 years or so.
Yeah, I was lucky enough not to have to create that really thick wall of managerial distance from people. There's been some talk about, the whole family aspect, and that production job I was talking about, being able to build up my staff meant that I was picking people that I wanted, not just because I thought that they would do a good job, but I knew that not only I got along with them, but others were likely to do the same. So being able to build up that crew was something I also really liked about that job. And so we wouldn't, do the after work drink kind of thing, but we would do stuff like go out to lunch together. And that was, I'm management, but I'm going out with my employees. And, sometimes there was like concern about fraternization styly things from the upper management. But as long as the crew was putting out the work, that was, to me, that was my family. I mentioned that I was like, single and whatever, and being the salaried guy, like your wife, I was putting in all kinds of crazy hours. So not only did I become involved in like the details you would during the normal course of a day about somebody's home life or what challenges they were going through, but oftentimes we would rely on each other for the kind of assistance that we did need that we maybe didn't get from our families or that we weren't getting from the jobs themselves. So creating that, that tight network of people and, carrying over friends, it doesn't have to be that you socialize all the time, but that close knit thing really helps when you need to pull out a job.
Yeah. And as a boss, you have to remember to draw some lines. I've been bit by it before where somebody I liked and you kind of let stuff slip, but then you realize you're letting too much stuff slip. So you have to crack down on somebody that you're, friends with. And it kind of sucks because a big part of it's on them is, if they're taking advantage of that kindness to let things slip. Just over the years have kind of pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, you can't be the cool boss every time. And I did have a little bit of that, other departments at least looking askance at us because we seemed to be having a good time most days. And the taking advantage thing, only really to minor degrees. And a lot of the time that take advantage because I had the ability to grant certain leniencies or, overlook certain things. As somebody who had been in the trenches and was literally in the trenches with them, sometimes it was like it was at the expense of the company or, that production deadline being met or whatever, that we did get to air it out. We did get to stretch our feet a little bit, stretch our legs and move our feet kind of thing. We weren't always just bound to do everything in, just like to a click track, making sure it all got done.
For me, the most important thing is to finish our work. So if you are able to finish your work and then there's extra time, then, somebody stands around a little bit and talks. I'll let that go because they're getting their job done. But if the standing around and talking gets in the way of getting the job done, then there's a problem. And not everybody understands. If not every worker understands the difference. They see somebody maybe standing there talking, they don't get in trouble, but this other person got in trouble. Well, that's because they got their work done. You're not getting your work done. We have 8 hours to do this job, so you can only portion so much amount to whatever, whether it's talking to a customer or doing this or doing that. And you have to figure out how much time you can allot. If you finish the work sooner, then that frees up a little more time for talking to a customer or whatever. Vanessa Kitty said, after my first 6 years enlistment, I got out temporarily. Dang Border Patrol and security firm for a nuke facility kept begging me to come on board. Sergeant Joe Smith said, I hate my boss. He's a jerk. He owns his own business.
Good one.
Uh-oh. Hillbilly said, I have thrown up all the hard seltzer that my body can handle. I got to go to bed. Great show. Much love. Well, have a good night and feel better.
Sad thing is that in the morning he might need some Alka-Seltzer on top of all of it.
John Z, New York Outcast with Disabilities is out there. Good evening.
Good evening.
You were saying, were you saying something, barbecue?
I was just gonna ask if you couldn't do what you're doing now, like for some reason, for whatever reason, you just couldn't be a manager at a grocery store anymore. What would you transition to? Likewise, same question, but instead of transitioning to something, if you had to go to a previous career that you had, what would it be?
Oh, I'll let you go, DJ, so I can think about this.
Oh, right on. Yeah, the one that I would go back to would be there'd be like kind of the same answer. I would want to transition into retail, but the specific one that I would want to go back to would be when I worked at a used CD store. So being in a record shop again, I really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed a lot of my jobs. I feel like I'm in the minority almost, but I really like the interaction with the public. There's something new every day. People bring in their collections. I had the latitude to talk, unless the store was busy, I could talk to somebody about music and their collection because they're bringing in what they wanted to trade in and what they were walking out the door with. It also gave me the opportunity to still participate in the music industry. It was pretty far distant by that point, just being in retail, but always a good time doing that and staying in touch with the arts themselves, not just being able to listen to the music, but paying attention to what the trends in graphic design. All kinds of exciting stuff going on with that. Foss, that give you enough time?
Oh, I don't really have an answer because I don't know. I would probably stick with the same line of stuff just because I'm getting closer to retirement. So, but put in that last 10 years and then I can do whatever I want part-time. Honestly, if I could choose something, the only problem is it wouldn't pay enough. I would work at a bowling alley. I love bowling. I grew up, my grandparents bowled, my mom bowled, my aunt bowled. Grew up around it. I enjoy it. I don't really bowl. I haven't bowled in a long time, but yeah, I don't have a good answer. And for past jobs, I don't know. I've never had I guess what I have now, I've been doing it so long, I could call it a career, but I don't know.
when you said past job, since you went with bowling alley, if you had the transition, I was really hoping that like a past job would be like groundskeeper at a golf course.
I probably would like it. You know, you're outside.
Souping
Doing
up golf
manual labor.
carts.
Yeah. Chasing gophers.
Oh, all the dynamite you get to play with.
Yeah, all the plastic explosives.
Be epic.
X Adam 1 said, I worked with good crews and managers, always intervened with our morale. They wouldn't let us do things our way because of power trip. Each person would do what we do best. Blue collar jobs allow you to speak freely, talk smack to one another. Office job was full of fake kindness, and so PC that made it boring.
Office politics are a burden for sure.
John Z said, I quit a few jobs before I got fired for calling out those with egos and having power trips for being pussies. Never been fired. And Wood said, none of my past jobs would pay enough. And John C said, blue collar jobs, definitely easier and funner people to work with. Yeah, part of the other reason it's, you know, all manual labor jobs is I am not educated. I have gone to school for some things, but the not being able to sit still thing problem would always arise, and so it made it problematic for sitting through lectures or whatnot. I would end up the first time I went to community college, right after high school, I found out that our ID cards allowed us a free bowling game at the bowling alley. So I would end up down at the bowling alley bowling instead of going to class. And that happened a little bit when I was taking classes at WSU. Ended up down at the bowling alley bowling instead of going to class.
For a fun activity. It's when I was working at the college radio station. I was much more attracted to going down and hanging out in that same milieu that I was talking about earlier. I gravitate towards where the music is. So there were more than a couple of classes that I did not post well in by the end of those semesters.
Caucasian Sasquatch said he'd be a gigolo.
I wonder if that is the transition from doing what he's doing now, or if that was a previous profession.
Just a gigolo everywhere I go. Sergeant Joe Smith said he wanted to be a photographer for Playboy when he was growing up. And John Z said, who didn't?
I didn't. And say, if I wanted to smell a fish market, I'd just go down, work at a fish market.
That's a little too highbrow for me. I'd want to go work for Larry Flint.
For what?
I'd want to go work for Larry Flint.
He wants to take those in-depth photos.
There you go.
You really get into my subject and study it up close.
Larry Knopf's out there. Good evening. Larry was at his 30-year class reunion. I have not gone to any of my reunions. I left high school and didn't look back. There's I think only 2 people that I keep in touch with that were really good friends and still are.
And I wonder, were it not for, pardon the interruption, I wonder, were it not for Facebook, which is kind of a high school yearbook made available, if there would be as many relationships that I would have maintained. And there are damn few that I still see. It's really just one person that I still see on a regular basis.
I didn't enjoy high school, so I didn't really go. I missed the maximum allowable days every year. But part of that was just I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. So I didn't, I failed 2 years of French because you had to have foreign language to go to college. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I picked French just because it was the one I least disliked. But it took me until just before I met my wife. The girlfriend before I met my wife kind of helped start to straighten me out, help me find a direction. And then my wife was a big influence on getting, kind of get me to point it in a good direction. I was not the most responsible person, and there were a lot of things that kind of happened right about the same time that was a blessing. Around the same time, I decided I didn't like the way things were. I wanted to live my life differently, and that, I was a hard worker, but show up late, call in. And then, at one point I decided I didn't want to be that person anymore. So I changed the way I was for the better.
Rock.
X Adam said, my brother has many of his high school friends. I don't have a single one. Sergeant Joe Smith said, high school sucked. I quit after one semester. John Z said, life isn't long enough to even pick one thing really that one can really enjoy and appreciate unless you win the lotto early and don't lose your money quickly. Wood said, I graduated high school with a cumulative 1.6 GPA with 56 absences my senior year. I think I had a 2.0 because, I wanted to make sure I graduated.
I had like a 3.4 and I wasn't trying.
I give two shits about my high school average. It was when, the dean's list is what I cared about by the time I wanted to be academically responsible, because high school was a pushover.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was interesting that I realized the older I got, after high school, taking college classes at different colleges, that the older I got, the better my grades got. When the last class, when I went to WSU, I think I had like a 3.5. Part of it was it was really interesting being older. I was in my mid-20s, 24-ish, somewhere right around there. But looking at 18-year-olds that were coming in that you're taking classes with, and they don't care if they're there. It's not, of course, it's not all of them, but just, to see that attitude where, they show up because they're supposed to show up, but they don't really care if they're there. And I'm sitting there like, hey, I'm paying for this shit. I'm trying to learn. To me, it was interesting to see the difference between that would have been a young me, kind of more with that. Well, that was a young me with that attitude, but the older me, slightly older me, looking at that and, looking at the difference in our attitudes about being there. Wood said he didn't start college till he was 26.
Yeah, the first time you got to settle that bill, the university bill, and it's all on you, you start to care about your performance a little bit and about how, where your money is going and what you've got to show for it. as well. It's an investment, and it's the real world, or for those of us who paid our way through college, that's when you really start to figure out what a lot of that adulthood shit is all about, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't get a degree, and I was a few classes from getting an AA even. I kind of, I can't say I regret not getting it, because I'm still living a life, and it hasn't been detrimental not to have it, but it would have been nice to have been able to stick with it and accomplish it.
Well, there
And
certainly is life left in you, boss. You could get that racked up,
You can do
like
it.
by
yeah,
totally.
I've thought of a few times about trying online classes, but I know I can't. There's no way I could do that. I don't have the discipline to do an online class.
I've
But
actually looked recently into going back to school.
I've thought about it now and again, but it's just that I know there's older folks that in their 80s that'll go back to school just to do their
Mhm.
degree, but I don't know if it's not a pressing issue for me.
Yeah, well, and the workforce now, it's not, degrees aren't a requirement for almost anything anymore. There are very few jobs that you can't, apprentice, understudy, and I'm not talking about the trades. I mean, in Omaha, Omaha Public Schools, if you don't even have to have an associate's degree, they will bring you in as like a para, like a classroom assistant, and you do that for a year and then you begin your academic program, they'll bring you into a classroom. And the state's on board with it, and a lot of other states are too. And there are other industries. I mean, when I was I graduated in the late '80s, so I'm out there relating to the feeling of age when you hit those class reunions. And from then, it was expected. No, you're going to get a bachelor's degree if you're going to have a career in anything. And so it was, a lot of people just like peeled off from right there, just like, hell no, man, I'm going to beat feet. I just got out of high school. I'm not going back for any more. You're crazy. And so the expectation was we're going to have we're going to have a bachelor's degree. And a lot of times there was such, competition that it was, well, you better have a master's degree. And then that just started to taper off, and it's taken a hard crash. Gone are the days where you submit, say, for employment, fill it, submitting a resume and a curriculum vitae and a cover letter and all that other stuff. Man, if you don't have all of your shit on one sheet, people aren't going to look at you anymore. They don't want to know how overqualified you are for something. And also, Gen Xers are the first generation where we had to expect, and statistically it bore itself out, that we could not be a single career worker, that we were going to have a minimum of 3 careers within our career lifespans. And that happened to me in 20 years, my first 20 years of work.
John C. said, started college at 19, almost 30 years later, and still have not completed one degree, but I still enjoy learning as I get older. I did always enjoy learning stuff from the classes. Whether it was community college, WSU, I did a year at ITT Technical Institute. I loved learning the stuff. I just like ITT, I didn't want to do it as a career, so I only did the first year. I wish I had gone into the second year, because the first year is analog, and then the second year you get into digital, and I would like to know more about the digital. And the instructors were great because they all came from the industry and then became teachers. So, they knew hands-on what they were talking about. But
No doubt.
I think they ended up getting sued out of business over the loans, something like that. But I did learn
Yeah,
a
there was
lot.
one. Yeah, there was an ITT here in town. I can remember that for sure. Well, and one thing I love academia. I like thrive on a campus. I always loved it. Both my parents were teachers. See, but I didn't finish my education degree. And I gave you that example. So that's one of those things when Barbecue was saying, what would you get into now? I mean, I'm in my, I'm in my early 50s now. And that'd be kind of old, maybe. But I think there might be a small district somewhere that I could see myself teaching in. I'm not sure that the changes that have taken place between when I left public school and rejoining it, that I'd really be as down for the mission as I once was. But I'm going to pass it back to you guys after I add this. We all love to learn. Here's the thing about colleges and universities: you can audit a class for no credit, and often they will waive tuition. And when you reach retirement age, I've never known a school, private or public, to not have that policy. So if you want to go, sit in the classroom, maybe not FOSS, right? But you want to go pick up and learn something, audit a class. It's out there.
Larry said, when I was in my 30s, went back, saw my younger self, and that I don't care attitude in those younger generations. After my bachelor's degree, I was done. Next, Adam 1 said, degrees are feel-good things. You need skill and experience. People that I've known that make the most money didn't have a degree, just basic education. That's what's great about America. You can become whatever you want to become. G23 said, I have 0 degrees. I've had jobs that require degrees, but because I had experience, they overlooked the no degree. And kind of when you were talking about teaching, that there is, when you're, whether it's with kids like Woods has been talking about, or when you're teaching somebody and you see that glint in their eye when they get it, whatever you're teaching, that moment they understand it, that is an incredibly great feeling as an instructor. I don't know how to describe it, but whether it's when I was teaching karate or teaching other stuff, that you see that moment where it clicks, and that's an awesome moment.
I can relate to that as well from my experience working with the guys in the group home. We had programs going all the time. That's a way I can relate to Woods too. When you're doing, assessments and you're finding out what programs you're going to be working with somebody, what they want to learn, how you're going to go about implementing that, how you're going to, chapter it out with the different levels that they'll achieve, how you go about doing that, the reward systems that are in place. And when you refer to that glint in someone's eye, when they get something or they've achieved a new level and unlocked some great potential in themselves, that is rewarding. That's a stand back and recognize the contribution that you've just made to humanity, not to a deadline. That's beautiful.
Have a good night, G23. He's heading off to bed. Larry said, degrees aren't what they were sold to our generation as, but I always loved the learning process. I think the job market, that especially ones that require degrees, is different because the entry level is so much higher. Seems to be so much higher now, where you need more just to get in the door, where you hear stories of needing a degree and experience just to be an intern at some places, which is, that internship is supposed to be there to give you that experience. But that's just stuff I've heard. I have not experienced personally.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends that will feel free about talking about those kind of things, and I know that has borne itself out with a bunch of them. It's also true, some of the chat that's going on out there, that you need 0 kind of thing. And one of the things that I really like is the return to trades. I know we may we've had conversations. And I know Barbecue's been around. Gee, I don't know where he went tonight. Foss, you have been too, where we recognize that there used to be trade schools for after high school. There used to be programs within high schools that would prepare you for a trade, and now you journeyman out with any of the unions kind of thing. And I think it was maybe G23. Sorry if I'm incorrect about this. It was talking about how much you can make from not having a degree at some jobs. It's just like, yeah, absolutely. Plus, the job security that you have is completely different than it is in most professions that aren't based in the trades. Someone's always going to have a plumbing need. There's always going to be an electrician. Someone's got to fish Cat 5 cable, that kind of thing. Barbecue was involved in trucking. Stuff got to move. America runs by truck, like channeling a little bit of Mr. Maine out there. But yeah, farmers, I'm in farm country. So, and it's not as if those guys aren't damn near geniuses when it comes to a hell of a lot of stuff. When they, all the hats that a farmer has to put on and all the things that they need to know, it's not just as much, it's not just being on a tractor and putting seed in the ground or, putting feed out for animals. There's so many things about that business that really are a business. It's nuts.
Oh yeah, you got to water it too. Come on.
I forgot that water part. I'm thinking of
don't use Brondo. Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, he started a program because he wants to get people back into the trades. I don't remember what I don't if it's a foundation or something like that, but I think I saw an interview where he was talking about it, and I don't remember it. It was a couple of years ago that I saw it, but I think it kind of came out of doing the Dirty Jobs show, and then realizing that we're losing that workforce. So he wanted to do something about it and started a foundation or whatever to try and encourage kids that not everybody's made out for college, and you can make a good living doing trades.
I've seen. It may be the same interview, but I've seen that more recently, and it's like, it's like Mike Rowe. I can't remember the exact title either. Google it, you can find it. But yeah, it's like scholarshiping programs, entrepreneur programs, and that guy's like, he's a super chill cat. Like, he is a really great guy. And the long form interview that I watched, the observations that he was making about our culture, about the work culture within it, and the whole people in general thing, it was a good listen. I really like that guy.
Yeah, he's based.
I'm gonna make a observation, probably going to be a little short-sighted in the long run, but honestly, if you go talk to somebody, like say they're working at McDonald's or something like that, how often do you end up hearing somebody say, oh yeah, I went to school for HVAC, but I couldn't find a job, so I'm working here? Or I went to school to, be an electrician or whatever the crap. I've never ran into that, but I have talked to plenty of people who said, I went to college and got a bachelor's degree or something, but now I'm stuck at McDonald's because there's no jobs in my degree. So they go and spend tens of thousands, if depending on the school they went to, pushing $100,000 to get a bachelor's degree that really ends up being useless. And I'm not saying that's the case for all degrees, but the problem is we just tell kids, I don't know about so much today, but I know when I was in school, it was just, you got to go to college and get a degree, or you're not going to get a good job. And I know a lot of people that did that. They went to college, they got a degree, but nobody said, oh yeah, you need to make sure that you get a degree in something that you'll be able to use.
That's something that I started hearing about probably at least 10 years ago, where some of the degrees, which are kind of like feminist studies, you're probably not going to find a lot of jobs in that market. other than
Yeah.
teaching?
Yeah, as specific as degree programs became, it used to be pretty general, not generalized, there's specific degree programs, but, your bachelor's of arts programs were at most universities, like say in the 60s, that was about 10 programs. And then it's like this studies, you're bringing up, feminist studies, gender studies. I mean, now you can get, especially in the sociology areas, you can get all these, it's not just interdisciplinary, they are completely separate disciplines, which is kind of nuts. And yeah, when you're narrowing down to something that specific, you're pushing yourself out of the job market and available jobs if you go too specific with something like that. And barbecue, I like your examples and tandeming in and dovetailing with what we were talking about earlier. Like that is something that that a lot of people aren't thinking about. But I got to bump you a little bit, push you in the ribs, man. You said short-sighted in the long run. How's that work for a blind guy?
Oh, I was waiting for somebody to crack the blind joke. Don't worry about that.
I love it.
Finally remembered to put the banner up there at the bottom of the screen. There's email address and a link. You can send in comments, suggestions, or pictures within reason.
Oh, darn it. I was going to tell you to put the banner up in like another 5 minutes. Beat me to it.
And there's a link in the description for the Gilded server. It's a place to hang out, share pictures, memes, chit chat. You can get a hold of myself or anybody else that's on the chat through Gilded. And if you watch this in a replay, leave a comment. Anything we talked about, agree with, disagree with, think we left out. Let me know. X Adam said, I worked with 2 mechanical engineers and 1 nursing degree. They said they liked the money and time off. Same reason I wanted my job. There we go. Eric M509. We have an awesome tech school here in Yakima. We need quality skilled people and many service industries. You can make great money like plumbers and electricians.
No doubt. Those industries are solid. Not going to run out of the need for that.
Larry said $50K for a degree, and I found myself in a grocery store. But I do really like what I do. There are connections to my degree, but not what I envisioned.
Well, to take a riff on Larry, I've got a friend who graduated high school, started working for, it's a regional grocery, Hy-Vee. He made his way up to an assistant manager in his hometown, and that was about an hour here from Omaha. He moved into town, started working a couple of the stores here in town. Was just would take responsibility on, showed good responsibility at his work. Ends up as a store manager. They give him his own store, one of the new ones. He did that for a year, and he decided to knock it back. He's just a dairy manager. He's the dairy manager at a grocery store in suburban Omaha, and he knocks down better than 80K. He's like almost 90 grand managing dairy. Now, he's the best damn dairy man I know, sort of a farmer pulling teats, but like that's some damn good money. I mean, I bumped up maybe not even close to that, 2/3, 3/4 of that at my best paying job, to make sure that the milk department runs smoothly. So, don't let anybody tell you that you need a degree to do, to make the big dollars or to enjoy what you do. The corporate slogan is where there's a helpful smile in every aisle. My buddy Matt's got a pretty big one at payday.
He works for a grocery store called HIV.
HY-VEE. IV. Barbecue.
I have turned down there's a couple different jobs in the past where they wanted to send me to management training, and I turned them down because you could end up anywhere in the country where they had, like for Safeway wanted to send me to their management school, which would be nice. You make more money, more responsibility, but they could send you anywhere they have a store, and I didn't want to do that.
Walgreens is like that. Now, they won't do it like nationwide or anything, but like within your district, which like when I worked at Walgreens, the Pittsburgh North district, which was funny because they call it Pittsburgh North, but half the stores were closer to Cleveland. I don't understand. Anyways, so that stretched from a little bit north of Erie down to, I would say, just 30 minutes north of Pittsburgh. And I don't even know how far east and west it encompassed, but store managers and executive assistant managers could just get bumped around as they pleased. Now, once you got your own store, you were pretty well set at that point. But the executive assistant managers get shuffled around all the time. Sometimes they would just move them because they're like, we just feel like this.
I had a
Yeah,
neighbor.
it's a young person's game.
She was somewhere in the management system for Walmart, and her husband, it was a really cool guy. He cleaned carpet. He was a carpet cleaner. Really fun to hang out with, dude. And one day he's like, well, they told my wife we're moving, I think, back east. They're sending their store back east, so they had to sell their house and move back east. X Adam said, I would take a lesser paying job if it gives me a good schedule and treats me right, as long as it pays the bills, fine, and I have a little extra in my pocket.
I can get with that program.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I can completely understand that.
Yeah, only having, and in the past as well, to support myself, those things are a lot greater considerations.
Okay, I finally figured out what your profile pic is out there in the chat. Is that a Vitruvian man playing the guitar?
Yeah,
okay.
It is.
I've been trying to figure that out. It finally hit me. Oh.
Yeah, I changed it for the first time since I started my YouTube accounts.
I don't know. What else is going on?
G-Webs is getting his beauty sleep.
I think he may have sat down and fallen asleep. He stepped away at the beginning and has not returned. X Adams asking, when is the Shadow 2 giveaway? Whenever you want to give it away, let me know. And I'll facilitate you giving one to the chat.
So everybody, hashtag MP60 for X Adam 1's Shadow 2 giveaway.
Awesome.
I'm still waiting on my go ahead for what I bought. So Washington I did not realize it, but a part of the last, some part of the last gun control bills, there's a new medical waiver form thing that they look into your medical background. I knew they had done that for semi-autos, but I did not realize that there was a part that was coming into effect for all guns. And so I had to fill out a new form, and I think that might be what's making this take so long. But so I'm still waiting. So everybody else has to wait to find out. what I got. And I did notice that the 4473 is different. The second question almost trips you up because it used to be yes for the first one and no for everything else. So I wouldn't even look at them, just click bing, and then, ding, 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 ding. And then luckily I looked at it. I think it still stays the same where everything else is no, but I realized that the second question on the 4473 was different than I was used to. And I don't remember what it says, so, but they're getting tricky. Well, DJ, you put a link for the crisis line. Why don't you promote the crisis line? Explain to everybody what it is, and then anything else you want to promote, go ahead.
Sure. Crisis line. It's up there on your screen right now. That's 1-800-273-TALK. And if you don't want to talk on the phone, you can text TALK to the number 741-741 and reach somebody that way. There's always help with local folks available by dialing 988 or 211. And though that is usually a link that I associate, and others will, with Brooke Cheney's channel and her Suicide Saturdays, I didn't see enough of you in there tonight. I'll drop the link. It is for any sort of crisis that you're in. Don't think that just needs to be associated with a time where you're considering things that may doom yourself. Any kind of stresses you're going through, work stress, you got some? That can be a crisis that you might want some help with. Certainly, community resources are things that they can put you in touch with, and there's no shame in it. It's the kind of thing where if you can do better for yourself and for those around you by reaching out, please do so. Somebody cares. Those somebodies are in this room. I know that I speak for everyone here that if you need assistance with something, you need an open ear. If you don't want to call those kind of numbers, reach out to somebody in this community. We're a bunch of solid citizens, good guys, good gals, and we'll know where you're coming from maybe more than you think someone else might. So I'm going to drop a link to Brooke Cheney's A Great Start Shooting School channel. Saturdays, as I mentioned, she's got a live program. Come in and chat about suicide prevention and mental health awareness. That's about all I got for tonight, boss. So until I see everybody again, be safe, have fun, carry your guns, and rock. I'm out.
Guns Barbecue? Anything you want to plug? Like your Tuesday chat?
I guess I could plug the Tuesday's chat. Yeah. Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. A ripoff of the Daily Gun Show. If you don't know what the Daily Gun Show is, go to Gun Website's channel. And, actually, no, I guess that's just on the Daily Gun Show channel now. Either way, you go to the Daily Gun Show channel, and then you can just catch like 3,000 episodes that you're behind on. Seriously. So, but if you want to see the ripoff of that show, tune in on Tuesdays at 11 p.m. And I don't know, like I was thinking of something to plug. I got nothing. Thanks for the invite, Fuss.
No problem. And let me play this. Not that one. That's the wrong one. Oh. GearWebsites.com for all your 2A related t-shirts, stickers, patches, books. He does web design, consulting, you name it. He can probably help you out with it. GearWebsites.com. Let me drop the banner. There we go. G-Webs, are you there? Can you hear me? Ground control to Major Tom. I think he's away. So again, still no Wednesday chats. Saturday for now. Hopefully, find out not too long ago. But it's not up to me. So X Adam 1 sent me a clip. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll play it. Do that one. Yeah, I saw that one on Instagrams. But all right, back to saying goodbye. Let me get there. We go. So again, if you watch this replay, leave a comment. And thank you to all those who were out in the live chat, chatting it up, and those who were maybe watching but didn't say anything. I appreciate you too. Don't be afraid to say hi. Let us know you're out there. And check out anybody who is on the chat. Go show them some love. And I hope everybody has a good rest of the night.